Everybody, welcome back to another episode of RevTalks. Today we're joined with Jeff over at Brighton. How's it going today, Jeff?
I'm doing great, Patrick. It's an honor to be have this conversation with you.
Absolutely. Thanks for being here. Give a little background about Brighton. I know you guys are in a very interesting space, servicing a pretty interesting demographic. So let's just kind of touch on that briefly.
Well, some context. So for 36 years of my life, I'm 60 this year, just to give you an idea how old I am. But for 36 years of my life, I did wealth management. So I found assets for people. We raised a little bit under $1 billion. I had a TV show, had a radio show, had all the trappings of success. And then my life took an unfortunate detour on October 4th of 2016 when our oldest son, Seth, was found dead in a hotel room from fentanyl. He had had an 8-year battle with addiction and substance abuse. And that was soon followed by my wife drinking herself to death 4 years later. We were married 21 years. That set the foundation for what I do and why I do what I do. So my startup, Brighton, which ironically has a beautiful twist to it. When Seth died, 3 weeks after he died, his daughter was born. And we found out a year and a half later. And she's now 10. And her name is Brighton. So I don't look at myself as a founder. I'm a father. And Brighton's not a startup. It's a legacy. So I don't consider myself playing in the normal sandbox that most people are in this space. So I'm driven by something completely different than most people. So Brighton was mirrored after financial planning. So when I got into the mental health by necessity, not because I wanted to come into it, I felt like I needed to help people. I realized that everything was episodic. Everything was like, wait till your child has a not drinking problem, take him to rehab. Wait till your other child's overweight, take him to a gym. Everything was focused on downstream clinical care and taking care of putting out the fire. And I'm like, well, why don't we move upstream? Like Desmond Tutu said, at some point we got to stop pulling people out of the river and move further upstream and find out why they're falling in. And that's our healthcare system to a T. And ironically, in this space, that's where all the money's going. Everyone's moving downstream to pull people out. And I'm like, there's a massive opportunity using AI right now as an ally, not a friend. I mean, as an enemy, to focus on prevention and using really creative ways to get people to just not fall into the river in the first place. And that's what the idea was with Brighton. So I built like the first mental wellness planning app and mirrored it after a financial planning app. And instead of investing in stocks, bonds, and real estate, which is what most portfolios do, your human portfolio is investing in health, wealth, and purpose. So those are my 3 human asset classes on the app, our health, wealth, and purpose. And I feel if we can optimize your experiences in those 3 areas, we can increase human flourishing using AI as an ally. That was my big, hairy, audacious goal. So
yeah, very powerful story. I appreciate you sharing that with us and everything. I do see on the website, obviously, you guys have some pretty cool actual pictures of what the app actually looks like on a mobile device. So that's super cool. Can you kind of talk briefly about what it kind of takes to kind of get started? I know you guys have for therapists and for schools. Is there a specific like vertical you guys are trying to address, or is it mainly just kind of like to a consumer or somebody who can actually take the product in of itself?
Well, our go-to-market is going to be the B2B play. We have a direct-to-consumer. It's up 68% MRR for the year. So, we're going to be over 100% growth in that area, but that's more exploratory, supportive. It's great for, testing things out, but it's not really, I move too fast. I have a massive sense of urgency, Patrick, because 900 people die every day in this country from the deaths of despair. And so every day to me, there's 900 people getting those calls that I got twice. And so to me, that's my sense of urgency. So the direct-to-consumer is too slow to me. I need to get this in the hands of millions of people yesterday. And the only way I'm going to do that is go through the B2B play, either through employers, payers, providers, the workspace, and this is a big thing here, but not a standalone app. Brighton is embedded into the system. So I think the standalone days are over. I don't think you're going to see apps like Calm and Headspace in. Now, these are unicorns, obviously, but they also were the first ones to really come to market with this idea. But I think employers now are looking for an integration, whether that's prescription adherences, sentiment analysis with your mood check-ins, journal entries. So what we've done with Brighton intentionally is we did not want to be a standalone direct-to-consumer app. I think those days are really numbered. I think the way to $1 billion valuation is to integrate yourself into the healthcare system in a very preventative and autonomous way. So people don't feel like they're at the clinician's office when they're on the app. That's key. So we have the dopamine, serotonin hits, we have the streaks, we have the point redemptions, all these things that kind of turning it into an engaging product, but not one that's addictive, because that goes against my belief structure. We're not built for engagement. That's really not what Brighton is all about. We don't want people 5 hours on the Brighton app. We want 5 or 6 check-ins a day. And the average session time right now is about 4 minutes on the app, which is about double what it was a year ago. So I know what we build is working, and I know people are willing to pay for it because we've got a tremendously large pipeline right now. But we have no sales team either, which is kind of interesting. The product right now is doing a very good job of selling itself, quite honestly, through some of our networks that we have.
Nice. And it does definitely seem like the new sort of play for not just apps, but obviously software and any sort of platform, especially with the way human attention is going, is it has to be some sort of like an infrastructure play, like you mentioned, to where it has to be integrated in the business, in the company, or something specifically, because we're even seeing that right now. I mean, we're developing software on the back end for our agency services, and then obviously we can push that on the front end later. But on the back end, we're seeing that like it has to be seamlessly embedded in the actual service or in the actual delivery of the product or the actual delivery of the actual service. And so it's super important, not just the engagement, like you mentioned, but obviously the check-ins, making sure that it's almost integrated in a part of like a routine. So it becomes a very helpful tool. Right now, how many users do you guys have for Brighton?
Well, since we basically did a stealth mode for a year roughly, and then late 2024, we started turning on the monetization with the direct to consumer. Our pricing model for the B2B is on a PMPM, so basically per member per month. So, and I'm trying to remember, what was your question again? Sorry, I was thinking of something else.
Oh, it's all good. I was curious about how many users are actually.
Oh, users. Okay. Yeah. So we're averaging about 1,000 monthly users right now. And our active subscriptions are up almost 70% year to date. Again, that's mostly on the direct to consumer side. Sure. LTV is really good. CAC is really low. So all the metrics that we have, the thing that we don't have, from an investor standpoint, is the revenue. We're at about 180, I think, RR for a run rate. So by the end of the year, we'll be just a little under 200,000. But the place we're playing in, one of our contracts has 500,000 lives. So the place that we're playing in, it doesn't take much to go from, 200,000 of ARR to $1 million very quickly.
Right. And I know you did mention too, kind of the B2B play. Can you kind of talk about that more? So it's integrated in a school or a sort of mental health care company, or then it's distributed out to the people within it, or
no,
how exactly?
Our first really aha moment was 2 years ago. We signed a 3-year deal with a pharmacy benefit management company, a PBM. We had a relationship with the HR director, which is, a lot of how these things start. They just coincidentally were looking for a patient-facing a digital behavioral health tool to pair with another program that they had. And so they were actively interviewing and looking at, when it came down to the decision, was Calm, another big one, I can't remember the name now, and us, and they ended up picking us. And what they were looking for, they have 500,000 lives. They're growing at about 40% a year. So that number is going to grow quickly. And they have about 400 enterprise customers. So like, bank, credit union, car dealership, financial services company. So the first one that we enrolled is a company out of Lincoln, Nebraska that had about 300 employees. And we rolled it out. We have a 12-week rollout program. So for us, I don't care how good the widget is. If your employees don't know about it, it doesn't matter. And the EAP usage utilization rates are 1% to 3%. So, the bar is so low that if I can't build something that I can beat those abysmal metrics, I might as well be selling cars. That was my mindset. So, it's great that our adoption rate, our utilization rates are 16.3% right now, which is substantially higher than the industry average. But the bar was so low, I think anyone should be able to beat those metrics. So we have a really creative, innovative rollout program where we don't require the CEO or the president to be at the webinar kickoff, but we know that the likelihood of the engagement metrics being very favorable is if we get the top people to get involved in the rollout. So it isn't just an email they get, hey, we're paying for this mental health app for free. Here it is. We want to actually tell them about it, show them about it, step them through it. We have some really creative live demos my CMOs put together. And now through that one PBM, so there's like 90 more PBMs in the country. Just that one PBM alone, once we start activating the revenue, that can change real quickly for our ARR. So the goal is just to go back and get 2 PBMs, 3 PBMs, and just replicate exactly the first one that we did. And the same thing with schools. We have 4 or 5 charter schools. There's 8,000 in the country. We skipped the public schools for now. There's too many barriers to entry. Charter schools have a CEO that makes all the decisions. It's super quicker and easier to get into them, and they're very loyal.
Yeah,
our contract renewals are 100% with charter schools. So
okay, nice. And I know you did kind of mention too briefly about the development side of the actual app too. But before we actually touch on that really quickly, is this bootstrapped? Are you guys funded? Are you guys looking at raising funds? Or
I've put 550,000 in myself. We've raised 1.35 oversubscribed on our pre-seed of $1 million. And we just kicked off in July a $3 million seed round that I'm actively now interviewing for lead investors. So
Nice.
I raised $800 million over 30 something years in my investment career. So I'm confident I'm going to find the money. So it's not the check I'm looking for. I'll find a lead. It's what's behind the check. I want someone that's in this space. I want someone that is half as obsessed as I am. I'm not going to find anyone more obsessed than me on this passion project of mine. So if someone's 50%, Jeff, then that's great. I think we can change the world that way. Most VCs that I'm interviewing, they say one thing and you get in there and it's not what they say. So I'm patient. We've got angel investors. I've got people that are getting in this round right now that are waiting for it to be priced. We have a simple safe that we just set up to accept funds before it's priced. Yeah. So that's where we're at right now.
Nice. And in terms of kind of development, what are you guys looking at mainly rolling out and kind of the future? I know you guys have a pretty well put together platform, integrations, things like that. What's kind of next on the roadmap?
One full disclosure. I am a high touch CEO. My co-founder is the high tech co-founder. So when it comes to technology, that's not my thing, but that's why we work well together. I like public speaking. I like doing the keynotes. I like all this stuff. I like being the face of the company. I'm the visionary. He's the implementator. So Carson has a dev team that we've got overseas right now.
Nice.
And he meets with them weekly. We have sprints, 2-week sprints. But we've been able to do all this with 2 full-time people and 2 fractional people and no sales team. So I'm quite proud of our team. It's been hard. It's not been easy. We've been on fumes most of our existence. We haven't had runway, much more than 4 months. But when you're building the right path and you know that you are on the right path, I have no doubt this is going to work. It's just not going as quick as any founder always wants, right?
To a point, everything has its process, obviously, and things like that, I would probably say. But
yeah.
Obviously, congratulations on the success you guys have right now. Raising the funds, obviously, given your background, was probably a little bit of a layup too. So that's obviously very good.
It's been hard. I appreciate having a finance degree and managing people's money in a portfolio that we developed, and got a trail fee on is substantially different than convincing a VC to write a check in an industry that they think's maybe not hot enough or too hot, or maybe they don't like prevention, or maybe they don't like AI. So I appreciate the kind of the initial assessment, but the reality is that they're completely different worlds. And I came into it overconfident, Patrick. I thought I would just show up and I'd be able to collect checks, but I'm finding a lot of stigma and biases that VCs aren't in the space as I am. I'm in the healthcare space, 24/7, 7 days a week. I don't vacation. This is all I do. And I meet VCs that kind of think they know a little bit about mental health and about the space. And I don't know if they know as much as they should know. So a lot of what we try to do is education, that prevention. There's old school prevention. There's new school prevention. Right. There's AI that you can get on the wild, wild west. And then there's our AI that we trained and built. Right. There's ways I have to educate these investors so they have more confidence in me when they write that check. Definitely. And I need to make sure that I'm getting more than just a check, and I've got someone behind it that can open doors for us and help us pour gasoline on this thing right now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you taking about 15 minutes to be here on RevTalks. Can you give the audience the company website once again, and then where can they actually find you on the internet too?
I'm everywhere. I have 4 Facebook accounts. I have 2 LinkedIn's. My team, my Gen Z team is blowing things out on TikTok and Instagram and all that stuff. Just Jeffrey Johnston or Brighton, BRIGHTN. Apple, Android, we're available. It's like $6.99 a month. And like I said, if someone wants to reach out to me, the best way is probably on my LinkedIn Jeffrey Johnston profile. Just DM me.
Sweet. Well, I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to be here, Jeffrey, and we'll talk to you, stay in touch, and have the episode in a little bit.
Appreciate it. Thank you.